guys! Today we're going to be talking about Syrian hamsters and why pet shops keep them together in cages when we all know they're solitary animals. This question has popped up on my channel a lot since I did the which species video and also since I did the can they live together video, and it pops up in one of two ways. The first way is just people curiously asking why are pet shops doing this when Syrians can't be together, and the second way is when people try and use that as evidence to show that Syrians can live together. Now, that is a very dangerous piece of information to take as evidence and then to keep your hamsters together for that reason, and I'm going to explain why, and I'm also going to explain why pet shops aren't doing anything wrong by doing this. I know it's shock horror to hear someone saying that something a pet shop is doing isn't wrong, but in this instance, it isn't. It's completely fine. And that's because the hamsters in pet shops are typically around 5 to 6 weeks old. That's the average age, although sometimes it can expand out to 4 to 7 weeks. I am speaking generally about pet shops, and this probably isn't going to apply to every single one, especially not some independent ones, but for the large chain pet shops it definitely applies, and for most pet shops it will apply. So when Syrian hamsters come into pet shops, they're about 4 to 5 weeks old. They are never any younger than this, and that is because they cannot survive without their mother before 4 weeks old. I have heard tales of people being sold hamsters that they were told were a couple of days old or a week old. That is absolutely impossible. It wouldn't happen. If you were sold a hamster that was only a couple of days old, you would know about it. It would have no fur, no eyes, and pretty much no ears because they're folded right back into the head, and they're about the size of a jelly bean and completely pink, and you would know it. And unfortunately, a hamster that was homed at just a few days old or even just a few weeks old would not survive without its mother. It needs those first 4 weeks, which is why when hamsters go to pet shops, they are about 4 to 5 weeks old. They can be a little bit older. It really depends on the breeder or farm that they are coming from, but they don't tend to be older than 5 weeks when they first arrive, and that is because pet shops like to get the hamsters in, or any animal in, at as young an age as they possibly can, because this is considered the high selling point. This is when the animals are their cutest, and unfortunately lots of people buy animals just because they're cute, so that is a big positive for pet shops to get animals in at their cutest stage, so they like to get them as young as possible. This is also relevant when we talk about how long the hamsters will stay in the pet shop. Usually it's only for about 2 weeks or so. By this point they have either been completely sold up or they are classed as old stock. They are sometimes priced down, or they are put into the adoption section if the shop has an adoption section, so that they can make way for the new stock, which are the younger, cuter babies with all the new different colours, and that is all for the sake of profit and everything like that, because pet shops know that if they keep the same stock, as they call them, in the cages week after week, people are going to get bored of seeing them, they're not going to look, they're not going to buy them, so they need to get new, prettier looking animals coming in every single week to keep people interested. Unfortunately, that's just the way it works, there's nothing we can do about it, but that's the reason for the age gap being around about 4 to 7 weeks, although more commonly, the hamsters, when you buy them in pet shops, are about 5 to 6 weeks old. So let's get to the biology of this, shall we? Because in the wild, a Syrian hamster's instincts for living a solitary life don't kick in till they're about 8 weeks old, and this has been observed in breeders' litters. They'll watch their hamsters and they'll notice that around 8 to 10 weeks old, the Syrian pups start getting a little bit more aggressive and pushy towards their siblings. Sometimes the mother gets a bit more pushy towards her children and starts pushing them away from the nest, and by this point they should have already been separated anyway, but in the wild this would be the stage where they start leaving home, going and looking for their own territory, finding their own space, and those solitary instincts are kicking in. Before 8 weeks old, they are very happy to stay in groups. They still have their instinct for being with their litter mates. It's the safest place for any animal to be, any young animal, to be with their litter mates, to be with their mother. So their instinct is to stay as close to them as possible, so they are a very close group at this stage in their life until those instincts start to kick in. Of course, at 4 weeks old, they do become sexually mature, and males should be separated from females in domestic environments, but the males can live with a group of their male litter mates until 8 weeks old, and the females can live even with their mother and the other female litter mates, again until 8 weeks old. So taking those two pieces of information, you can start to see why pet shops keeping Syrian hamsters together is actually okay. The Syrian hamsters they have are under that age where their solitary instincts will start to kick in. They're usually 7 weeks or younger, down to 4 weeks, and they still have that instinct to be in a group and to be close to their litter mates, so they often look very happy playing with their siblings and spending time with them and living in a group, and that's very normal and natural of them. It's not going to cause them any stress to be in a group at this age, so biologically speaking, there is nothing wrong with Syrian hamsters being kept in groups in the pet shops because they are under 8 weeks of age. However, if you find a pet shop that does keep its Syrian hamsters separately, huge props to that pet shop. You are a very lucky person for having a pet shop like that, because although it's okay for the hamsters to be together, although they're not going to fight, although at this age they're not going to suffer from any stress from being with their siblings or anything like that, it's still not really a good thing for pet shops to be doing. Because by keeping the Syrian hamsters together, they are sending out the wrong message. Although it's an okay thing to do, although it's safe, they really are sending out the wrong message to their customers, to the potential owners, especially as, and we can't deny this, most hamster owners are young children, and even if the cage has a sign on it that says Syrian hamsters are solitary and must live alone, I know some pet shops do that, even if the cage has a sign on it that says that, a small child might not know what that even means, or a small child might look at the hamsters and go, well, I can see that the hamsters are living together, so I should just ignore the sign. Because as far as you're concerned, you're seeing the truth right in front of you, which is that Syrians are happy together. So I find it very irresponsible for pet shops to do something like that, keeping any kind of animal that should be living solitary lives in cages together. It's such a silly thing to do. So that pretty much answers the question as to why pet shops do this. It's mainly just a space-saving thing. They want to get as many hamsters into one cage as possible. They want to make as much profit off of the animals as possible, and you can make more profit on 50 hamsters in one cage rather than having 10 hamsters in individual cages. So there we are. I hope that has sort of cooled your minds down a bit, because I know some of you were worried about the fact your local pet shops may have been keeping Syrian hamsters living together, and I've seen this question pop up a lot recently. So I hope that answered it for you, and I hope you enjoyed the video as well. Don't forget, if you did, do leave a thumbs up to help support the channel, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. You can find me over on Twitter and Instagram. They're both linked in the description box below, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye guys!